Okay, we got another one from Crowder with Louder with Crowder. This is Crowder. So we're gonna bite size of this one here. So thank you for this one. This one is called "This is how you fix systematic racism." Yeah, if that is something that still exists today, let's see how we
Yeah.
go about fixing that. All right, let me mute myself here.
You are feeling the ripple effects from slavery in the history of the United States, and that you face systemic discrimination?
I think there have definitely been times in my life and places that I've been where I have felt the effect.
I don't believe the United States is a racist country. If you disagree, you're more than welcome to change my mind.
So it was interesting to me at the beginning. You said you don't think it's a racist country today. Do you think that at some point it was a racist country?
Yes.
Again,
So that's why I'm not saying that the United States was never a racist country.
Yeah.
I think slavery was a horrible evil, of course,
Yeah.
and I think it was horrible that it took us to get to the 60s for the Civil Rights Act. I'm not at all here to argue that the United States was never a racist nation. Every single nation since the dawn of civilization has practiced slavery in one form or another, still practiced across the globe. Thank God we abolished it.
Yeah, so just my question up front for you is, at what point did we stop being racist? Was when the Emancipation Proclamation was signed, or when?
Yeah, I would say after the Civil Rights Act.
So the day of?
The day that everyone was given... No, I mean, systemically, yeah. Now, it doesn't mean that there weren't individual racists.
Yeah.
And particularly when I'm talking about 2020, because most of the people out there protesting are not the people who were around during the Civil Rights era. You have a lot of young Americans who have never suffered at the hands of systemic oppression.
Okay. In your sign specifically, you're talking about systemic oppression?
Yes.
Okay.
Not racist individuals. There are plenty of racist individuals, and you can find those black, white.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
we just had a
That's
gentleman
life.
right there accost my friend there who's biracial, tell him that he was white. And he said, well, that sounds kind of racist.
Right.
And then the guy got really mad. And then I said, well, I don't know, are you brown or yellow? And he got mad at me. I said, well, I'm just using your same shading rules. And he said something about checking a white box, and I create all the tests. So I don't necessarily know what was going on there. But I'm not arguing that there are not individual racists. But as a country, the United States, not only do I believe that it's the best country in the world for people of any races.
I agree that overall we are the best country in the world. I agree with
you.
that. Yeah. But I think the main place where I disagree, perhaps not, we don't have systemic racism, but I think that whenever you think about racism, you have to keep in mind classism. I think that systemically there are a lot of systems that do divide classes and keep lower classes suppressed. And because of our history, because of the way that black people and many brown people were treated in the past, we are tied into lower classes. And you have to keep in mind that when you're talking about racism, oftentimes people actually...
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, right there, that kid's already lost the argument because he's already changed topic.
So classism and systematic racism are not the same thing.
Two totally different things. Like, you can't quantify systemic racism as classism.
Yeah, because
you can change your class status. You can always move up in class.
Yeah, depending on your financial status, your achievement and success.
Exactly.
That could change. And if a kid is born
now, if
with a rich,
if you had systemic racism, that would not be possible.
You're right. Because if it's in the system in itself, how could there be any room for anyone to rise above and be successful?
Exactly. So that kid's already debunked his own argument that he's trying to make.
But you notice how easy it is once you start questioning these people for actual proof of systematic racism, at least solid proof, not a little book here and there, a few people here and there. Like when you're talking about a system that is racist at heart, you need some serious, strong evidence to prove that. I haven't heard any.
No, you can't. They can't come up with any because there is none.
Yeah.
Not like Crowder said. It's not that there aren't racists out there. I'm not disagreeing with that. There are definitely people out there that are racist, but there's no system in place that keeps black people from achieving anything that any other person of any other ethnicity can achieve.
I think to a degree, if I'm not lying, if I'm not wrong about this, I think blacks have even more privileges now than many other race. When you think about affirmative action, for example,
you got affirmative action, you got HBCUs.
Yes. And you got the welfare state. yeah, you say HBCUs, and
The
there are many
welfare
other.
state definitely favors blacks over whites.
Yeah, and also I would also add Spanish to that group as well.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Hispanics. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, I don't know where systematic
especially
racism
if they're
is.
illegal Hispanics.
Yeah, that's another thing. Was that what was that thing you call? Is it DAPA? That
DARPA,
one
DACA.
DOPA?
No, DACA.
DACA. That's you said that's a system that helps those who are
Who
illegal
came here
immigrants
illegally? Yeah,
and they are protected and cared for under.
DACA makes illegal immigrants a protected class.
Hmm.
DACCA.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not. Yeah, that's another thing. We can talk about that all day because if we let them in, we have to care for them. So the solution is to not let
That's
them
basically what it does.
in. So
It
it's like,
says that if they come here illegally, we have to take care of them. We have to
yeah,
provide them with health care,
yeah,
health benefits,
yeah,
a job,
hmm
yada, 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 work
yeah.
card,
It's
visa.
like a similar thing I see in nursing homes a lot. When once the resident is in the nursing home, even when their money runs out, the nursing homes still have responsibility to care for them. They can't just throw them out and kick them out, even though they have to find other means to finance their stay, but you can't just get rid of them. So
Right.
it's one of those things. So if they come into the country, by all means, you open the door, you have to care for them. So we have to check that as well.
And that's one reason why, like Trump was so adamant about
Mm,
keeping our borders secure. Like
yeah,
that's the job of the government, is securing the borders and keeping the American people safe.
absolutely. I
That's
don't see
that
anything
is
wrong
like
with that. Yeah, I don't see
the
anything wrong with
only
that at
two
all.
job that's the only two things that the government is supposed to be doing.
Yeah. And there's such a level of hypocrisy when it comes to this as well, because not to go too deep into the immigration things, they don't really want them. Even the Democrats many the Democrat state who are calling themselves century cities and so on, but when they have to face the reality, just 50
One
immigrants were
one
sent to
bus load to Martha's
one
Vineyard
bus load
will
was
freak
sent
out.
there. Yeah, they had a heart attack. And I'm like, wait. I mean, we're getting thousands of these individuals coming through the borders
Yeah.
to so many Republican states, and they have to figure out a way to care for them. And one bus loads of 50 in your state, where you could have in a rich state too. We're talking about a place that has money,
Saying we
and
welcome immigrants.
until they come to our house.
They're what George Carlin would call NIMBYs. Not in my backyard.
Not in my backyard. That's a good one. Yeah, his hypocrisy. Let's get back to the video here.
So yeah, I just wanted to point that out, that he basically just debunked his own argument.
Yes, he did.
Actually mean classism, and the two are very closely intertwined. When you look at the numbers, it's how it is.
Well, let me ask you kind of to define classism and how you think that there's systemic oppression through the form of classism. And maybe I think we'll probably find some common ground and then some areas where we disagree.
Yeah. Just if you look at job opportunities, oftentimes people say, go ahead, get a 4-year degree. That's going to give you more job opportunities. But for people who are completely broke, oftentimes 4-year degrees are just not opportunities that they have, because they can't go into that financial deficit, and they don't have the time to be able to get those degrees and things like that. I think there are a number of things that, I didn't come here prepared today to list them off. So I think it'll be helpful as we talk, so I can kind of.
And you would say that would apply to someone who's poor, who's white, just as much as someone who's poor is black. Like the trailer park kid from Arkansas is at just as much of a disadvantage as the poor black child from South.
Well, I think that the poor trailer park trash people in Arkansas.
I didn't say trash.
I did.
I'm
not mincy about words.
Okay, that's fine.
I'm concerned about the meaning behind it. I don't get triggered by the misuse of pronouns.
Let me ask you this. I won't want to get off track. I want to go back to what you're saying.
Yeah.
Do you think most black people think the way you do?
No, absolutely not.
You think they are offended by words?
I think most people in general are offended by words.
Okay, because generally speaking,
I think I'm a rare
the
exception.
people that I've met, most average black Americans, not those in the media, don't tend to be nearly as sensitive as privileged white people about words.
I've seen it both ways.
Okay.
I don't think there's a way you can generalize it.
Okay.
I think it's a
So you're just an
person-by-person
anomaly. Yeah.
basis. Yeah, I think we all are.
Okay.
We're all special little snowflakes.
Okay, so
Can I
trailer
drink this?
trash, I would rather you not, just because what happens is, let's say, someone at Shake Shack poisoned it. then
I like
I'm on the hook.
You know, I work at In-N-Out, and I'll still go to
Do you
Shake
work at
Shack.
In-N-Out?
Yeah, I do.
Well, then I have a beef with you because I think you're
So we have the
overrated,
beef.
overhyped, over everything. So the trailer trash
Not
white kid
overpriced,
from that's true.
I want to pause quickly just to simply acknowledge the level of intelligence and balance in perspective of this young man. I think very few are even talking like that, even though he had canceled his own argument earlier. But when you're listening to him talking to Crowder, you can see how he is changing his perspective, and that he's kind of like dialing back and correcting himself. And I'm seeing a lot of intelligence as well because he's like, okay, this is a smart kid.
He
He just
is,
needs
and
somebody
that's
to talk to him correctly.
and I think it's one of those things where I think it's one of those examples of where he's never actually had someone sit down and actually talk to him one on one like Steven is here
Mm-hmm.
to show him that, hey, look, maybe there's a different way of thinking about things than what you've been
Told.
thinking about it or what you've been told.
Mm-hmm.
There's another side to this coin that perhaps you might want to take a look at.
Yeah.
And he's also very articulate
Yes, he is. Yes, he
and
is.
very good with his words and
Yeah.
I think he's very deliberate in what he says
Yeah.
because he definitely stops and thinks before he speaks.
This is a smart kid.
He is.
Very,
He's
very
very,
intelligent.
very intelligent young man.
I appreciate that. All right, let's continue here.
True.
Yeah.
I'll give you
everything.
that. That is true. I think people just like to feel like they're a part of the secret menu. So you said the white trailer trash from Arkansas. So going back to classism, do you believe that it would be the same disadvantage for someone who is poor in a lower class trailer trash white person from Arkansas as, let's say, a kid from inner city South Dallas, or they don't?
No, not quite, because of the stereotypes and the presumptions that people carry. I think that when a white person walks into the public, people oftentimes go in with a more neutral idea of what they could be. They have less assumptions and whatnot. Just like, okay, look in this room right now. I'm the only black person right now.
Well, you weren't. There were other black guys.
Maybe 30 minutes ago. Okay, I'm very outnumbered. I'm out-ratioed right now, right?
Well, can I say something right there?
Yeah.
Because I will tell you this. There have been some people who've come up who've been unsavory characters, and you would not be Now, I will acknowledge this. Sometimes you make assumptions when you see somebody. For example, if I see a guy with a Hell's Angels jacket, I go, ooh, let me be careful. Or if he's, got a teardrop tattoo. You would be someone here I would think, oh, that's someone who's dressed well, is articulate, has himself together.
I'm not dressed well right now. I'm sorry about it.
You're dressed cleanly. You got shoes going on. You're out
I do.
here.
Barely
Not
the Ritz.
which is more than I can say for everyone here. Some of these people look like they should, they're the hobos. So I don't necessarily think that, at least in my experience, and with everyone I know who works in my crew, and we do have black people, and we do have Latinos.
Diversity quotas.
Yeah, it is. I don't think that people would necessarily look. I think some would. I don't think that's necessarily true.
I think it's a lot more common than you might think right off.
Could be.
Yeah, I think it's the unfortunate truth of the world that we live in, and it's derivative of the world that we came from.
Yeah, I don't necessarily know that I would agree with that for a few reasons. Like we kind of mentioned, for example, let's use the education example specifically, because you said going into college. I think that actually a young black man from South Dallas has a great advantage over a young white trailer trash user from Arkansas. Eminem, Salem's Lot. We'll go that. That way it's specific and we're not generalizing anybody. It's a very specific person.
Hey, I'm also from Detroit.
Are you?
Yeah.
Oh, where are you from in Detroit?
Michigan. Detroit.
Come on. Are you actually from Detroit?
I don't know the
People
hospital.
say Detroit, they mean Mount Pleasant or something.
Detroit area. I don't remember. I moved here when I was like 4, and I don't really
You're from Birmingham.
No, not Birmingham. I'll remember when I hear it,
There are far more scholarships available to black Americans, and black Americans are accepted into universities with significantly lower test scores than white Americans or Asian Americans. So I do think that there have been some attempts to right wrongs of the past, which actually haven't yielded good results. They've yielded worse results in applications and enrollments and graduations. And what's interesting is when you look at the classism, first off, we have more class mobility here in the United States than anywhere else. Certainly than Canada.
Can you define class mobility for me?
Meaning there are more people in the United States who end up in the top 30% of income than anywhere else in the world. at some point in their life, or in the top 10%, including people go from the top 10, from the bottom 10 or the bottom 30 to the top 30 to the top. There's more class mobility here in the United States, more ability to rise out of poverty into upper middle class than anywhere else in the world. It's not even close.
All right. Just curious, I'm going to look it up afterwards. Where do you get those numbers
Absolutely.
from?
I can show them to you here if you would like to.
Yeah, I'd definitely like to glance.
And it's even interesting where you take people where they might have a higher overall quality of living, like Sweden or Denmark, and you take Swedes or Danes and you bring them to the United States, and they have a higher class mobility and higher quality of living here in the United States, because I think we acknowledge that different countries have different cultures, and sometimes they're more studious, sometimes there are cultures that are more industrious. But when you transplant any culture to the United States, I shouldn't say any, but all the stats that we have available to us, the best parts of their cultures that they bring actually are accentuated, and we see more of that.
Yeah, I also think it's kind of interesting. Well, when you say transplant in the United States, can you be more specific on the areas? I think.
Well, I just use like Sweden and Denmark as an example.
But where in the United States when they've been transplanted to? Because
anywhere
in the United States,
I doubt many of them are going, to the middle of Mississippi.
But I think that's part of the issue. When you look at rural areas, when you look at ghettos, where a lot of these lower income people are, where a lot of black people are, oftentimes
and white people.
More so, black people oftentimes, statistically, when you look at our proportion of this society, I think
there are more white people on welfare than black people.
There are more white people in the United States.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm saying. But I'm saying as far as the total number. Yeah, I understand.
I'm talking about population ratio per capita wise.
You do have more black people who are poor than white people.
Yeah, and
as a percentage.
Oftentimes,
why do you think that is?
Mainly because of the history of the United States, the discrimination that has happened in the past, the disadvantage that we were in the past. We started so far behind in this race, so there's only so far that as a collective we're going to be now.
So let me ask you this.
Yeah.
How old are you?
I'm 19.
19.
19 and a half.
So you believe that, let's say, a 19-year-old yourself.
Yeah.
You seem like a pretty articulate guy. You going to school?
Not
you're working in and out? I think you'll probably do okay. You seem like a pretty sharp guy.
Yeah.
You believe that at this point you are feeling the ripple effects from slavery in the history of the United States, and that you face systemic discrimination?
I think there have definitely been times in my life and places that I've been where I have felt the effects. I think overall, I grew up in a very privileged family. My parents, they make good money.
You have both parents?
Yeah, and that's the other
huge,
thing. That's also
far bigger than a statistic.
Yeah.
Because when you take, that's something that I think is important, and maybe we could find common ground. When you take upper middle class white kids or black kids, they perform typically the same. When you take lower class white kids or black kids, they often perform the same. When you take any class of kids without a dad, they perform very poorly by all metrics available. As a matter of fact, if you want to avoid being in poverty, there are 3 things that you can do. It's very simple. Go to school, don't commit a crime, wait till you're married to have kids.
Right, so I want to hear your opinion on this. Why?
I want to comment on what he just said here. There are 3 things. If you don't want to get in trouble, why 3 things? I want to read that again. I want to hear that again. That was powerful.
Go to school, don't commit a crime. If you want to avoid being in poverty, there are 3 things that you can do. It's very simple. Go to school, don't commit a crime, wait till you're married to have kids.
Right.
That was simple. That was simple.
Very simple.
Go to school, don't commit a crime,
and wait till you're married to have kids.
Yeah, that's the recipe for poverty.
Gee, it's almost as if somebody gave us rules about doing that.
It sounds like somebody's reading the Bible. It sounds like the 10 Commandments.
Yeah.
In summary.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, it's just like,
thou shalt not kill, steal, commit adultery. That's like crime. And also, you should not
covet.
You should not covet what doesn't belong to you. Don't go to school, don't commit a crime, wait till you get married. Oh, yeah. So no adultery. That means you have to wait till you get married.
Go figure.
I guess Louder Ricardo must be a Christian. I don't think he has.
Yes, he actually is.
I can see that. I get the sense that he is, even though I haven't heard him publicly said that, but I can see in his speech there is laced with Christian perspective. He just hasn't publicly said it. I saw that he had one video about this. What was it? A UFC fighter who was in a Muslim country, right? And he was talking about Jesus.
Jorge Masvidal.
Oh, I need to make a video to that one. This guy was talking about Jesus on the stage in front of a crowd full of Muslims. Yep. I'm like, brother, praise God for you. Because most people, only a
you
fighter,
would not be walking off that stage.
Yeah, most people they walk out with their head on their lap. If you know what I mean.
Ooh, boy.
Because
yeah, that's Jorge Masvidal for you.
Yeah, I love that guy. I want to do a reaction video to that.
And the other thing I want to point out is y'all may see those little white parts pop up at the bottom of the screen. Mm-hmm. Those are all the references that Mr. Crowder uses for what he's claiming.
That is powerful.
So if you use those links, or if you type that into your toolbar or your search bar, you can actually go to those links and see the same statistics, same information that he's getting.
He's done his homework, man.
Yeah. And he provides all these links on letterwithcrowder.com.
That's beautiful. That's a place for me to spend some time. I love that piece of knowledge he has. That's why he could sit there, and I'm loving how he's having this conversation. There's no condemnation and arguing. This is like a talk, a nice discussion. I think more of this need to be done in this fashion. So he's welcoming perspective, but he's also hitting them with facts. So, he's allowing them to do their talk, questioning their narrative, and then hit them with nothing but facts and allowing them to change their mind.
Yeah,
it's beautiful.
If they're open to it, yes. Some he's got that aren't so willing to change their mind.
I'm sure, because facts is not everything. That depends on where they are.
Not everything for everyone.
yeah. That depends for where they are, because it's the same thing with the gospel. There's a parable in Matthew. It's called the parable of the sower. So it's like the sower went forth to sow seeds, and as he was sowing the seeds, some fell on stony ground, and some fell among thorns, some fell by the wayside, and there were some that fell among good grounds. And when you study this parable, it shows that there are 4 types of hearts whenever any information is given. Particularly, this was addressing the gospel message, but when you can apply the same thing, is that when you're talking to people, you have to also understand there are 4 types of people you're going to get a response from. So by the wayside, they hear it and they say, I want nothing to do with this. Those who fall among the rocks are those who say, oh, that's good information. And after they walk away, they get rid of it. He just goes away. And there is those
one
who
ear
fell
out the other.
Yeah. There are those who fell among thorn. The thorns are like, oh, that's powerful. And they go home and they talk about it, and they're on fire for a couple of days or so, maybe a month. And after a while, situation happens and they go back to their own way of doing things. But we have those that are the good ground. The good ground hearers, the Bible refers to them in Matthew 13, is that when the message comes to them, they say, praise the Lord. Hallelujah. They apply it to their lives and they live by it and they preach it to others, and it bears fruit. The Bible says, some 3-fold, 6-fold, and 9-fold of fruit. So it's very powerful to study that parable, because it teaches you how responses will be when it comes to people. And on my channel, I see this all the time too. It's like I preach something and I read the comments. Exactly that. You have those who are like, amen. We have those, oh, I can't believe you said this. I'm like, oh gosh, I knew this, so I'm expecting it. So,
right.
Yeah, that's just the way it is. Nothing new under the sun. All right, let's get back to Crowder.
Right, so I want to hear your opinion on this. Why do you think that oftentimes more black children have to grow up in one household with families?
Can I speak freely without being accused of racism?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it goes back to the welfare reform. I think it goes back to the model cities program. It goes back to a welfare state created that disincentivizes people from staying married. There's a financial incentive right now to not be married.
So if that incentive is there, why is it only happening to black families?
Because there's a higher percentage of black families who use welfare than white families.
And why is that? Because...
Well, at a certain point, though, you do have to end that cycle. There is a responsibility. Your parents chose to stay together, right? Sure. That cycle can only be broken through personal responsibility.
Yeah, but before we stray too far away from that,
sure.
Why are more black families on welfare?
But why were more black families not getting divorced? Why do they have...
Yeah, go ahead. This is a good one.
The boy kind of cut him off there a little bit, and I don't know if you caught what Crowder said there.
Yeah.
But he hit the nail on the head. It's personal responsibility.
Absolutely.
And that's what
Absolutely.
it all boils down to.
But the welfare state certainly has played a significant role in incentivize husbands and more like women to not
Hmm.
stay married. I do agree with that.
Oh,
But
absolutely.
I wanna take it
But
one step further because I
it
think
it also incentivizes them not number one, it incentivizes the women to get rid of the men, and number
mhm,
two, it incentivizes the men not to take personal responsibility for their actions in
mhm.
getting the women pregnant because, oh well, they'll just go on welfare and they'll be taken care of.
I was gonna say, uh,
So
and
it's twofold.
you just lay the foundation for me because before the pregnancy happens, there has to be an ideology that led to this, right? What ideology that has invaded the culture of blacks that either made women to look like the B word? What ideology or what teaching, what culture have the black race adopted that says I can have two, three women. I can sleep around, and I'm a boss. I'm a pimp.
Hmm.
What I'm trying to say is, can we also blame hip hop? And I know we did this video yesterday, and some people are saying, y'all keep talking about hip hop and hip hop and hip hop. I'm like, bro, listen to the message of hip hop: money, sex, and drug.
Hmm.
At least the popular hip hop music, money, sex, and drugs. Can you be honest that part of the reason why our homes is broken is because a lot of our men are being are raised to hear being loyal to one wife? That's not normal in a hip hop world.
and even
You need to have a couple of them. You need to
and
run
even the
around.
women
Yeah,
even
the
the
women are
women
taught
are
the same
being
way.
like just go ahead, be promiscuous.
That's right. I mean, you hear a Cardi B. A Cardi B is one of the most respected female rapper for not only blacks but even all types of women today. This the stuff that she talks about
What's her
is what
what's her
women
name
take.
did WAP?
Yeah, WAP. Yeah, you take that right, and you put that in the mind of a young woman. She goes on. It's not just men getting pregnant women, but these women are also being pregnant by they have to consent. So there's this happening. So you have to understand.
They're getting hit from both sides.
There is a way that they think when it comes to sexuality, carnality,
Hmm.
women and men. There is a way that the hip hop world has been teaching us about relationship that is horrible. My wife sent me a video. I mean, if she's online yet, I would like for her to send me a link to that video again. Is this black lady? She was just calling out the hypocrisy of the hip hop world. And she was
Yeah,
tired of it. She was just saying, these women are saying, be this, be that, be this, sleep with this guy, we sleep with that guy. But these women go home to their husband. They are rich, they are happy, and we are broken. Our men are leaving us. They're not staking with us. We are having all these babies, and we have to chase after our men. And we are not happy
and
being
then they wonder
single and
what's
broke.
going wrong.
Yeah, and they're saying we keep listening to these women as if these women are the prophet. I mean, I wish my wife would send me that video. I'll play it again. But it's just like, yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. It's like, can we be honest here?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, like
yeah.
they play to the base carnality of the
Hmm.
human psyche,
Yeah.
and then when everything goes wrong, they try to blame white
Hmm.
people
Yeah. Yeah.
for what's happening to them. It's like, well, no, you're kind of doing it to yourselves.
Hmm.
Like, you're getting it from both sides of the fence. You got women telling women to be promiscuous, and you
Hmm.
got guys saying that it's okay to go out and hoe around and have 10 different hoes on the side,
Yeah. And that's cool.
and that's the cool thing to do. It's
Yeah.
like, no,
No, it's not.
that's not what God intended. That's not
No.
how it's supposed to be.
Yeah. And we are broken as a result. And now who is to blame? Now, there she is. I found her. Yeah, I found her. Now, listen to this. This is the one that my wife sent me. And I was like, that's what I mean. This is what I mean. She's talking common sense. There are some words in there that I would don't agree with, but hey, you can get the message.
Can barely hear it.
I'm sorry. Let me unmute that. She goes hard. Okay, so you know.
I'm a little mad about something. We trying to live up to this hot girl, city girl shit. I'm talking about we walk around, fuck these niggas, pop this pussy, get this money, fuck a bitch. And our fucking leaders are in love. These bitches in whole relationships. These bitches teaching us how to hop on and off dicks, steal money from niggas while they sleep, how to finesse a nigga out of his drugs so we can go sell it. And they over here living happily ever after. We keep standing at the bottom of the steps waiting for Megan and City Girls to drop more songs with more instructions on how to fuck our lives up. These bitches is rich and in love, bitch, and we broke and single. Well, I ain't broke, but I'm for the people, so I'ma act broke today. Megan, you wanna help us? Rap about how you got money back, yo. Young Miami is happily in love with a nigga who said she ugly with her wig off. If that ain't love, I don't know what the fuck is. Nikki, how did you get Kenny? Cardi, how you still going strong with Offset? That's like taking relationship advice from a single bitch. Come on. Bitch, you want us to be hot girls, but y'all having a Sierra summer. Shit. I'm a little mad about something. We try.
I mean,
she ain't wrong.
Where is the lie? No lie detected, somebody.
Hashtag no lies.
I am so serious. This lady is on fire. I could definitely, we can speak against her word all we want, but you get the message. Get to the heart of the thing. That's what I mean. This is exactly what I mean. Like, this is really where our problem is. Like, can we talk about that? Like, oh my goodness, that was powerful. Yeah. All right, let's continue here. Yeah, exactly. This is Andrea here. This is exactly. Yeah.
You get what I'm saying, Andrea?
Yeah, she gets it. We're on the same page here. All right, let's continue here.
Stronger family households before the modern welfare state. In other words, blacks had a lower divorce rate. They had a lower fatherless household rate before the modern. We get it. Careful, there's a lot of connotations there.
Sure.
They had stronger family units before the modern welfare state. But stronger. Now that was also sold to them from the Democratic Party. It was sold to them as something that was owed to them through reparations, right? This was a big part of the targeted black areas and encouraged them to get on welfare. And then through that point, continuing through that end, they then created financial incentives to not be married. And at a certain point, I do believe when all rights are equal, since the 1960s, as far as the right to vote, when we're talking about the right to own property, redlining has been stopped, and there are systemic advantages afforded to minorities, not afforded to white people. There does have to be, considering that we know how beneficial and how much of a privilege, there's no greater privilege than being raised in a household with a mother and a father, that some personal responsibility does need to come into account. And that someone today who chooses to walk out on their wife has nothing to do with the Emancipation Proclamation.
What do you think the solution is? What do you think the end game is?
It's very tough to propose a solution because the solution can only come from the ground up through family units, through strong family units, through moral character and teaching people to stay with their kids. Because like I said, I think if we educate young people, white and black, listen, be responsible, don't commit crimes, graduate school, wait till you're married to have kids.
Yeah.
And that will change, that will generationally change. In other words, statistically, I think it's a 97% chance that you are above at least middle class if you do those things. It's not really rocket science. And by the way, that doesn't even necessarily mean that you need a higher education degree.
Yeah.
And no one talks about it.
Right.
And unfortunately, unlike our conversation here, which I think has been pretty fruitful, you know, often if white people say that, they're accused of being a racist.
Yeah, but before we stray too far away from that,
But will we agree on that that's something that's been sort of tossed by the wayside, not been given the importance that it needs for all families, staying together and raising someone in a nuclear family?
Yeah. Overall, yeah.
And that sports cars mean small penises.
Yeah.
If you drive them like that.
It's okay, we don't judge.
Yeah,
we don't judge.
Small penises.
It's what?
It's okay.
It's not the size of the boat, motion of the ocean shit.
That's not true at all.
Going back to education, I think primary and secondary education is also a very big issue. People who grow up in less fortunate areas, people who grow up in ghettos, oftentimes they don't get the best primary education. And you're saying that the way to fix the nuclear family is to further educate these people, right?
Well, no, I didn't say that. I said we need to have a nuclear family, not to fix. There is no nuclear family in the black community a lot of the time.
All right, maybe I misheard you, but a few moments ago
I said to encourage a nuclear family. That means a mother, father, and children. In other words,
you used the word education earlier, so that's
we need to educate young people. Yeah. Yeah, but I don't necessarily mean that comes through school.
So where do you think it should come from?
People. Yeah,
if it's not coming from school,
well, I think it needs to come from leaders from both communities. I mean, let me ask you this: how much have you learned in school versus how much have you learned from people you respect or books that you read on your own or authoritative figures?
Far more from the latter.
Me too.
Yeah.
And so I think that it's a responsibility for people to step up in positions of power, authority, who can inform. That's what I'm doing.
But I also think that's a learned skill. I think we should teach people how to learn for themselves.
Okay.
And I think that we can teach that in our school systems.
Primary schools.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this, and I agree. I think that schooling is important. I come from a place like I was raised in Canada.
Yeah.
Born in Detroit, raised in Canada, and they do have a much better public education system. Because you can go to pretty much any school you want as long as you want to drive or take a bus. It's what we call school choice here, and a lot of people say it's racist. In Canada, it's just, if you take a bus, it's fine. So what do you believe the problem is in primary education? Or because I definitely believe that our public education system, I think we're referring to public education, right, is broken and needs improvement. And you think that's a big piece of the puzzle.
Definitely.
What do you believe is broken there, and how do you think we can maybe fix it?
Hard to say as someone who's not an educator, but I think that generally schools that have better funding and then have a staff that knows how to use that funding are going to be better off in the end. So we need to have better training for the faculty of the schools so that they can know how to allocate these funds properly.
How do you get better training?
By creating better programs.
And that requires money.
Yeah.
Well, I would agree with you in the sense that obviously people, if you have to go to public schools, I think homeschooling is a big option now. We've seen with the COVID-19 that people can do it.
I think homeschooling is a very 50-50 with the results.
Sometimes we have quite a few homeschool people on the staff. And
I'm a homeschool kid myself.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, no, your mom must have been terrible.
Not always. I love you, Mom. I love you, Mom. I'm just going to leave it at that.
No, he doesn't. He said that you place him in a burlap bag and beat him with reeds.
I didn't say that.
But the thing is, a lot of the most funded school districts in the country are underprivileged areas. So, for example, you have like Washington, D.C., you have Detroit. These are areas specifically where you're talking about, and they have higher per pupil spending than most schools on average, certainly more than many.
That's why earlier I said I think we need to better allocate our funds. Just more money isn't always the answer.
Right.
We need to know how to spend the money.
I agree. And that's something that, so it sounds like you'd be advocating for something like school choice. Sounds like you'd be advocating for incentives for better teachers, more punishments for teachers who are bad, whose students don't
Definitely.
do well.
All things I also agree would probably work in the police force.
I agree.
Yeah.
I completely agree. That's the thing for me. I've been saying for a long time, we need to reduce the power of teachers unions who protect bad teachers, to encourage good teachers, and the same exact thing with the cops. Do we agree on that?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Hey, look
Absolutely.
at that.
I love that discussion. That was fruitful, powerful, simple, but true. That's how we do it.
And learn something,
Yeah, that's how you do it, man. That's how you do it.
And
I love that.
That was kind of the whole point of him making these types of videos, is to sit down one-on-one and have these types of discussions with people to try to educate people on what really is the heart of the matter. Let's get to what is the root cause and get down to the basis of where do we begin to make the changes that we need to make, not just as a person, but as a community, as a country, as a whole, to make life better for everyone.
Yeah. And I think another thing, Lauder Ricardo kind of said it when he spoke about the best recipe for poverty is go to school, don't commit crime, and wait
till you get married to have kids.
Yeah. So when you boil it back down, it goes back to, that movie, Uncle Tom 2, when they were talking about the history of blacks and how involved they were in church at one time. And as the black race departed away from God in church and biblical principles, you've noticed that, and hip hop is coming to the culture, drug is infested in the culture, the gangsters are worshipped. And as they take their drugs and they spread it among their own people, and all these other issues are happening, and the war on drug, they say war on drug is bad, but war on drug is not for the people who are the users, but we're talking about those who are spreading the drug dealer themselves. And I don't think the world is ready to have a world infested with drug users and dealers. We don't want that either.
Basically, hip hop became the new church for
black
culture.
Actually, yeah, they became the preachers, and it literally they took the place of the pastors, and And that's kind of what happened as a result. And that's what we are reaping the consequences from until today. And is again, what happened with London B. Johnson with this welfare state, that was only part of the problem because I don't think, yeah, the men have left, but it's more than that to me. It's like there was also a cultural problem, or immorality has also infested the culture.
Yeah.
I don't know. This has happened for all race of people, and I think what
Oh
happened in the
yeah,
black
it's
community,
and it's not just black people either. I
it's not.
mean,
Yeah,
I
it's
see it
all
in
race.
white.
Yeah, the devil has attacked every one of us, and it's not just black. So I want to make it clear. It's just what I see happen among blacks is that we're spreading it faster than other culture. It's like what I've
Right.
seen is that we sing about it, we rap about it, and we dress, we
And you
talk,
complain about it more.
we complain about it more. Yeah, yeah, you're right. And we blame everybody else for it.
Let's
As if,
let's get real here. I mean,
yeah,
if we're
yeah,
gonna be real, let's get real.
yeah.
Like
That's true. That's true.
black people complain about it far more than others
Yeah, and
ethnicities.
that's true. It's true. It's like the thing is, we have to personal responsibility. This is where it starts. I think a lot of time we refuse to have the tough conversation that says, "What are we doing here that is so wrong that we could do better?" And I think we never gonna rise as a people to until we actually acknowledge the things that are killing us. It's like it's
And
it's,
then
it's
you
like
have
it's like
groups like
cancer.
and
Yeah,
then you
it's
have
like
groups like BLM come in and play on that and
play.
prey
Yeah,
on that.
yeah, they prey on your vulnerability, and they were trying to make progress. And BLM came in, and we have Mr. Obama came in and kind of like give life to this
And set
racism spirit
everything
again a little bit
back
again.
50 years,
Yeah, he pushed us way back, and then here we are wrestling with the same nonsense. People trying to heal. You
which
know what I
is
mean? So
completely fabricated. It's all fabricated.
yes, it is. It's painful. It's sad because I feel pity even as a black man. I'm like, yo, they played on our mood and our vulnerability and our history. Some people played on that and took advantage of that, and have us destroying ourselves from within.
Hmm.
And it's sad to watch it that happen. That's why we have to have these discussions and say personal accountability here. Let's make sure we look at ourselves and see what could we do better as a people, and be very honest about making some changes
And
and
some serious changes.
some serious changes. And I think the solution again is always going back to Christ. Jesus is the solution. They've lost every culture. For every culture, Christ is the
Oh yeah.
solution. But
Like
the black race, you want to stop the killing, the murder, you want to stop all of that. You got to go back to Jesus. You got to go back to Christ and get into a relationship with Him and follow His word. And then having His law written in your heart, then you won't kill your neighbor. You won't do all this stuff anymore. That
you
you
got to
will
get back
change.
to basics.
You gotta go back to basics. You got to be converted. The Bible says you must be born again in John chapter 3. It's just the solution for every issue that we're facing in our culture is that there must be a heart transformation. Christ must be in the heart, and that will set everything. The homes will be fixed, the families will come back, some of the husband might return, and things will get better from this point
Hmm.
forward. I believe that. Yeah.